Today I have another budget family meal plan for a week to share with you guys. I'm showing you how I fed my family of 5 for right around $3 per person per day. It comes out to just over $100 for a week's worth of meals. When I am planning for these budget meal videos, a lot of times I choose Walmart because I can get pretty accurate pricing in the Walmart app and make a plan. With Aldi, I can check Instacart, but the deal with Instacart is that there's a markup on every price. And that's, you know, how Instacart makes money, one of the ways that they make money. So as I'm going through my list here, I did use Instacart to plan, but I knew that I would probably be seeing lower prices, and so far I am. Almost everything on my list so far is less here in the store than it is on the Instacart app. So just something to think about if you're using that for planning purposes. Also, I usually plan not to film in store in Aldi because it's usually pretty crowded, it's a small store, and it's pretty noisy. It is Monday morning. Actually the day before Valentine's Day, which reminds me I need to pick up something for my kids for Valentine's Day. I mean, I guess maybe I should get something for my husband, but I don't know. We've just never been Valentine's Day people. It's Valentine's Day all year long in our marriage. Just kidding. But anyway, it's Monday morning and there's like nobody here. Super quiet. So I don't know, I guess I just hit the Aldi shopping jackpot today. So they have a few different kinds of granola here. They have 12 ounces here for $2.65 and a couple of different flavors. They also have a gluten-free kind in my store, which could be useful for a person who is needing to eat that way. They also have a pound of granola for $3.69, but then right next to it, they have a pound of granola for $2.99. And it's actually the kind that my kids would probably prefer, the oats, raisins, almonds, and honey. So this is the one I'll pick up. You could also do what I'm doing with the granola. You'll see for breakfast with, you know, a kind of cereal. They have this kind here is really good with granola. They have plain old Cheerios here, or their store brand of Cheerios for $1.45 a box. So you could shave a little bit off of your total if you wanted to pick up one of these instead of the granola. So far, almost everything is coming in so much lower than when I priced it out on Instacart that I'm going to be able to get more protein, so bigger cuts of meat than I had intended, like the 2-pound bag of tilapia fillets that I'm buying for $8.99 instead of the 1-pound bag that I had intended to buy. And it also means I'm going to have a few extra dollars to spend on more fruits and veggies. Yay! I was going to punt on the applesauce because they don't have any of the unsweetened, and that's what I prefer to buy. These, the strawberry and cinnamons, are a really good price, and there's actually only 5 grams of added sugars, 1 teaspoon of sugar per each cup, so I might go ahead and get those for lunches. A year ago, if you'd have told me, I'd be jumping for joy when I see eggs at this price, $3.82, I would have thought you must have the wrong person. But I'm so glad to see this price today. 5 pounds of yellow potatoes are actually less than 5 pounds of russet potatoes, and I actually would like to use these in some of the recipes that I'm doing. You can make it work with russets. You can also get 10 pounds of russets for $4.99. I don't need that many potatoes, so I'm gonna stick with the 5-pound bag. You guys, I can't believe I did this. Blueberries everywhere. Here we go, folks. I am very pleased with what I was able to pick up for right around $100 at Aldi today, including produce. I usually spend about $25 on produce, fresh and frozen, of these $100 challenges, that is, or I should say 25% of my overall budget. I have some romaine hearts. So many salads can be made from these 3 little romaine hearts that are in here after they're washed and chopped. I have 2 pints of blueberries. I have 3 peppers, a package of 3 peppers. My nectarines there, showed you the potatoes. I have 2 English cucumbers. It's wintertime. The cucumbers didn't look that great, so these are like greenhouse cucumbers. My kids love to take those in their lunches. 2 pounds of carrots. What a great deal. I think it was $1.89 for 2 pounds, maybe less than that. Was it $1.69? Something like that. I'll pop it up on the screen here. You'll see. I have a package of zucchini here. This is about 1.5 pounds of zucchini. Plus, I have 2 packages of frozen veggies. I went for mixed veggies and green beans today, and my applesauce pouches. Back there, I have my granola. I also have a package of saltine crackers, a box of saltines, I should say, because I had planned to buy pretzels or crackers or some kind of chip or something crunchy for the kids to take in their lunches, but they didn't have any regular plain pretzels. So I decided that I would get these, and we're gonna make some firecrackers for the kids to have in their snack. I'll show you how I'm doing that in a little bit. I also have a box of couscous, and be aware that the plain couscous is a 10-ounce box that has 4.5 servings. The flavored ones condiments are about half this size and serve like probably less than 3 people. A half gallon of whole milk. I almost got half and half, but whole milk will work. I would not use like a reduced fat or a skim milk for what I'm gonna use it for in this particular meal plan, but you can watch and see if that's something you wanna substitute. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I'm realizing now that I picked up regular yogurt instead of Greek yogurt. I meant to get Greek yogurt. This is whole milk yogurt. It is vanilla. You could get plain if you wanted and just flavor it yourself. There are 11 grams of added sugars per serving, but a serving is 3/4 of a cup, which is a lot. I did mean to get Greek yogurt. I would recommend that. I'm going to use this to make breakfast parfaits, but we'll still eat it. It'll be fine. You could get plain and you could flavor it yourself. I have a package of ramen back there. I have about a 2.5 pound chuck roast, and I have, how many pounds is this? About 4 pounds of chicken legs here, chicken drumsticks. My son is going to be so excited. He loves chicken drumsticks. I have some sliced cheese, some cream cheese, and 1 block of sharp cheddar. They did not have any turkey lunch meat. They just had chicken and ham, so I got chicken breast. 1 package of turkey smoked sausage, my 2-pound package of tilapia fillets. I am trying in these challenges to pick up 1 or 2 pantry staple or just kitchen staple items. So today I picked up flour and powdered sugar. If you already have these things, maybe you would want to pick up some spices, or maybe you need ketchup or Worcestershire, or maybe you want to pick up a broth base. They had both chicken and beef bouillon in stock at my Aldi today. 1 package of ranch dressing mix, 1 pound of butter, 1 dozen eggs, 1 loaf of bread, and my pizza. And I have to say, this was an incredible value. It is a really big pizza, and it was only $7.49. I think, or maybe it was $6.49 today. They had several different kinds and different sizes. I got this so that I could bake it, slice it, and then store it in the fridge for the kids to pack in their lunches, because this is a really inexpensive lunch option for them to take. I knew there was something missing. This was in the bottom of one of my shopping bags. I picked up a 3-pack of active dry yeast. This was 79 cents at my Aldi. One thing that I had to stop by Walmart to pick up, because they don't carry it at Aldi, was one of these containers of quick grits. It's a 24-ounce container, and I find these at my Walmart for $2.18 at the time that I'm filming this. So with that added to my Aldi receipt, my total came out to $105.69. We are standing by my spice rack because I will be using some of these items. I'm going to keep it very basic, where the seasonings and the condiments and just the kind of standard kitchen staples are concerned. You'll notice that I picked up a few of those items in my haul, like flour and sugar and butter and eggs. If those are things that you don't need, maybe there are some items I'm using that you could stock up on instead. Just have a look at the meal plan and the recipes. And even if there is a seasoning that I'm using, there may be something you have that you could substitute, or good old salt and pepper goes a long way. Speaking of seasonings, I'm using some of them right now to mix up a copycat version of the Italian dressing mix that comes in a packet. I was actually just going to get a packet of it at Aldi because it's like 55 cents, but they were out. So fortunately, I can, make this from just basic seasonings that I have on hand in the pantry, and then I can, adjust some of the seasonings to my taste as well. So I will leave that linked in the description box below. It's coming from my friend Carrie at Eating on a Dime. Or you can just pick up a packet of Italian dressing mix if you want. Now, I am actually going to use the Italian dressing mix to make the roast in the crock pot, but I am going to be making dressing for the salads this week. I just use oil, some kind of vinegar, and then some kind of emulsifier. Usually it is Dijon mustard for me, and then you can add whatever seasonings you want to it. What I usually do is about half a cup of oil and then about 3 tablespoons of vinegar. I really like just olive oil and balsamic. My husband is not a huge balsamic fan, so sometimes I'll use a different kind of vinegar, like an apple cider vinegar, or there's a champagne vinegar that I sometimes find that he really likes. But it's really, really easy to make homemade salad dressings, especially if they're just vinaigrettes. You can look up some recipes. Sometimes people use citrus, sometimes people add a little bit of sugar. I'll leave a couple recipes linked in the description box below for favorites of ours. I have the chuck roast cooking in the crock pot right underneath where the camera is sitting. I like to use a packet of Italian dressing mix, or sometimes I make it from scratch, which is what I did today. I used a teaspoon each of salt, onion powder, garlic powder, oregano, and sugar. And then I used half a teaspoon each of basil and thyme. I put my chuck roast in the slow cooker with a little bit of minced garlic and then sprinkle that seasoning over the top. And then I use a cup of beef broth, which I just make from broth base. If you are using water instead of beef broth, you might want to add an extra teaspoon of salt. Now I cook mine a long time. I like to cook it on high for 8 to 10 hours or on low for like 16 hours. Sometimes I'll get it going the night before and just let it cook all day because I like my chuck roast really, really tender, like completely fall apart once it's done cooking that long. Now, because I cook my roast in the crock pot so long, I don't like to do my veggies with it because they just get kind of overdone in my opinion. So in this little bowl, I have about 1.5 pounds of my yellow potatoes, and I diced those up into little cubes. And then I also used about half of my carrots and just peeled and chopped those into little chunks. And I'm gonna keep this really simple. I am just going to drizzle some oil over these. You could use butter. I bought butter, melt some butter and drizzle that over the top, but you're gonna want some kind of oil probably. I'm gonna toss in some fresh minced garlic and then just salt and pepper. I'm going to stir these all together. I'm gonna put them onto a cookie sheet and I'm gonna roast them at 400 until they are done. Will probably take at least 30 minutes. I'm just gonna check on them after that time. Basically, I just want them to be fork tender. The yellow potatoes cook faster than russet potatoes. If you're using russet potatoes, you probably want to peel them. I don't have to peel yellow potatoes, yay. Now, I only planned 5 dinners because that is plenty for my family for the week given our schedule. We usually will get takeout or go out to eat once a week, which comes from a different part of our budget. And we will often eat leftovers one night of the week, or maybe we have a dinner that's scheduled outside of the house, like a dinner that's at church or a birthday party or a gathering at a friend's house that's planned. Also, I chose vegetables that my family likes to include as veggie sides for the week. You could swap them out with different meals. If it's a different time of year and something else is in season, you could feel free to make adjustments to those. I just chose stuff that was available, that was inexpensive, that I know my family likes, that I could use in a variety of ways across these meals. Tonight for dinner, we are having one of my kids' favorite foods, chicken legs or chicken drumsticks. And I'm gonna press the easy button and get these going in the crock pot because it only takes about 3.5 to 4 hours for these to cook on low in the slow cooker. They cook even faster on high. And all I do is put them into the slow cooker and then season them however I like. Tonight, I'm gonna use 2 teaspoons each of paprika, salt, Italian seasoning, garlic powder, and onion powder. And I just sprinkle that over the top, pop the lid on, and get them cooking. I don't put any extra liquids in these because drumsticks or chicken legs are a little bit of a fattier meat, so they render plenty of juices while they cook. I thought about making mashed potatoes to go with the chicken legs tonight, but I decided I'm gonna make kind of some scalloped potatoes, some creamy scalloped potatoes. So I sliced up about 1.5 pounds of my yellow potatoes and I put those in a casserole dish. And now I'm making a roux on the stove with 1/4 cup of butter melted and 1/4 cup of flour. Now I'm gonna whisk in about 1¼ cup of milk, like a little more than a cup of milk. I want this to be a little runnier than like a traditional bechamel. And I'm gonna stir this over medium-low heat just until it starts to thicken up. It's starting to thicken up a little, and I'm going to add 2 ounces of cream cheese. And then I thought about seasoning this with just some garlic, salt, and pepper, but I'm feeling kind of adventurous. I'm gonna use some of this everything but the bagel seasoning. A little bit of plain salt and pepper would work too. I'm gonna use about 1 tablespoon of this, I think. And I still think it's gonna need just a little bit of just plain old salt too, since I didn't use any chicken broth or anything in this. I'm just gonna keep stirring this until the cream cheese melts and is incorporated. If I need to thin this out a little bit, I can add a little bit more milk or water. Then I'm gonna pour it over my potatoes in my casserole dish, and I'm gonna bake those at 350 until the potatoes are done. And how long I bake it really depends on the potatoes. Because I'm using yellow potatoes, they cook a little faster than russet potatoes. It also depends on how thick or thin you slice the potatoes, how many layers of potatoes are in your casserole dish. Basically, once I stick a fork in them and they're tender, they're done. Dinner tonight. I have my chicken legs, my potatoes, I have a salad with some homemade vinaigrette, and even some toast I made with homemade bread. Yummy. Since I was purchasing flour this week, I decided to go ahead and pick up a package of yeast so that I can make some homemade bread. This is totally optional. If you wanted to just pick up a couple loaves of bread for toast or just go without it altogether, you could. I just thought it would be fun. I like to make bread using my bread maker on the dough cycle, and I just follow the instructions for whatever kind of bread I want to make. A basic white bread, I use like milk and flour, salt, a little sugar, some yeast, a little butter, and then I will move it to a loaf pan and bake it in the oven just because I like the way it bakes up that way better than when the bread maker bakes it. But I am also doing just the basic 4 ingredient bread, which is just flour, salt, water, and yeast. And I'm not using a bread maker for that, just doing it the old-fashioned way. And my friend Christine actually has a really great tutorial about how to make this bread if you've never made it before. I'll leave it linked in the description box below, but it's easy, doesn't take any special equipment, and it even doesn't take very much yeast if you have time for the bread to rise. And it makes a really delicious crusty bread that goes with a lot of different kinds of dinners and also makes really great toast for breakfast. I have my stand mixer out because I thought I would whip up some shortbread cookies today. Normally when I do these types of budget meal plans, I usually try to throw in like a cake mix or a brownie mix or something that we can use to make a sweet treat to go along with the meal plan. But since I bought butter and powdered sugar, I thought this would be a good option this time. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. It's totally an extra thing. And if you wanted a sweet treat, but you wanted something easier and just wanted to throw a cake mix or something in your cart, you definitely could. But I'm going to show you what I'm doing today to make these. I have in my stand mixer here a cup of butter softened, which is 2 sticks, and I'm adding half a cup of powdered sugar. It has to be powdered sugar for this particular recipe. And I'm gonna pop this little lid thing on to keep it from dusting everywhere, and I'm going to whip this. I'm gonna beat this probably for a couple of minutes until it is really, really fluffy. I'm going to scrape down the sides here, and now I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of flour, and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Yes, you heard that right, cornstarch. And if you don't have cornstarch, you could maybe look up a recipe for just traditional shortbread. This is like a whipped shortbread. I like this recipe because it tastes a lot like the cookie part of the thumbprint cookies they sell at a local bakery here called Merritt's that I really like. I have dropped these onto a cookie sheet using a little 1-inch cookie, what's it called, a cookie scoop. So these are pretty small. And now I'm just using a fork dipped in flour to kind of flatten them down. One of the things I like about these cookies is that they don't require any chill time. You don't have to make the dough and then wait a few hours or overnight to make the cookies. You can just drop them right onto the cookie sheet and then bake them in a 300-degree oven. Yes, that's 300 degrees. It's Valentine's Day today when I'm making these, and I thought it was so appropriate that I happen to have a package of red sprinkles in my pantry. But upon close examination, these are not in fact Valentine's Day sprinkles. I don't know if you can tell. Let me open them up. These are in fact little stockings. Like little Christmas stockings. They are not hearts. I mean, they kind of look like hearts if you like turn them that way, right? We're still gonna put them on here and then pop them in the oven. Now, since these are baking in a cooler oven, they're gonna take just a little bit longer to bake. I'm gonna check on mine after about 14 minutes. I don't like giving finite baking times or cooking times sometimes because how things cook in your kitchen might be different than in mine, or you might like your cookies a little crispier as opposed to really soft. These are meant to be pretty soft little cookies. I also like that this recipe doesn't use eggs, so not only can I save my eggs for breakfast, I can enjoy the cookie dough. Not that I wouldn't anyway. And yes, I do know that the flour is also raw, but let me just tell you, if it's flour that gets me, it's just my time to go. If it's flour, of all the things on this planet that can kill me right now, if it's flour that takes me home to Jesus, it's just my time, y'all. It's just my time. Tonight I am making tilapia for dinner. I got that 2-pound bag of tilapia for a really great price at Aldi, and I have 5 of my fillets that I'm cooking tonight, and there were 8 in the bag, so I still have 3 that I could use for lunches or just make another week. If you are not a big fish fan, tilapia is a great jumping off point because it is very mild. It's a farmed fish. It doesn't have a real fishy flavor, you know, it doesn't have a real fishy smell, and it will basically take on the flavor of whatever you cook it with, however you want to season it. I just seasoned mine with some of this blackened seasoning that I had in my pantry. I mean, you could probably use all different kinds of seasonings. If you have an all-purpose seasoning, if you just want to use salt and pepper, if you kind of want to come up with a spice blend, if you want to use taco seasoning, I think there's lots of ways that you could season this. And I just decided to cook it in the skillet. I could have put it on a sheet pan, you know, use some oil with the seasoning, but I just put a few tablespoons of butter in my skillet here. and I am just cooking it on the stove for, you know, 5 or 6 minutes on each side, and then flipping it. It cooks relatively quickly. I'll use my thermometer to make sure that it is fully cooked on the center, and it'll be done. To go along with this, I'm making the couscous that I bought, and I just made it according to the package directions. Just follow the directions on the box. I did add a little garlic, salt, and pepper to it to season it. Gonna keep it pretty plain. And I am roasting my zucchini in the oven. It usually takes about 7 or 8 minutes at 400. This is gonna be a dinner that comes together really, really quickly as well, even though it has a lot of ingredients that I need to cook. It all cooks pretty fast. My kids love these spicy crackers that my dad makes all the time and they snack on while they're visiting my parents. I've sometimes heard these called Alabama firecrackers. I make them using 1 whole box of saltines and then a cup of oil, a packet of ranch dressing mix, or 3 to 4 tablespoons of homemade, a teaspoon each of onion powder, garlic powder, and then red pepper flake to taste. Some people like them spicier, some people like them more mild. I mix all that together and then I pour it over the top of the crackers in a 2-gallon Ziploc, and I just give it a shake gently, and then they just sit out on the counter for about a day or so, and every time I walk by, I just give the bag a little shake, maybe turn it over, and then the next day I move them to an airtight container. The ingredients for these are so inexpensive, and this recipe is so easy. It's an easy no-bake snack recipe that even my 9-year-old son can make these himself. My kids need a few different kinds of lunch options throughout the week. Sometimes they pack their lunch because they're going to school, and other days of the week, like the weekends, they're at home. So I did buy bread and lunch meat and cheese slices so we could press the easy button and just take some lunch meat sandwiches along with maybe some fruit or veggies and some of those spicy crackers and maybe one of those delicious little shortbread cookies. I also bought a large take and bake pizza from Aldi for lunch packing because I figured I can toss it in the oven, I can slice it up, let it cool down a little bit, and then store it in the fridge, and the kids can actually pack that in place of a sandwich in their lunch some days also. Most of the dinner recipes that I make produce a few servings of leftovers that we can eat for lunch, or it produces something that I can recreate into a lunch meal the next day. For instance, the roast that I made in the crock pot had quite a lot of meat left over after that dinner, and I was able to turn that into some really delicious salads for my husband and myself when we were home for lunch using a homemade vinaigrette. I bought this big 12-pack of ramen so we would have some more lunch options throughout the week, and there are so many ways that you can upgrade this. I can take leftover meat and veggies from dinners the previous night and make like a ramen noodle stir fry. I can also take the noodles and crush them up and toast them and use them as a salad topping. Today I'm gonna make the mayo ramen with some added vegetables and give it a little protein kick with an egg. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I've got some water coming to a boil on the stove, and I added a handful of frozen veggies to that as well, and once it starts boiling, I'm gonna add my brick of ramen. While that's cooking, I am whipping up the sauce to go along with it. So I've got my little like flavor packet here. You can leave this out and season it yourself if you want. I'm gonna add 1 egg and just a couple of teaspoons of mayo. I'm gonna whisk that all together, and once the noodles are cooked, you'll see how we're gonna combine this with the hot noodles and the boiling water, which will help to cook the egg for us. My noodles and veggies just came off the stove, and I like to add just a little bit of the hot broth here to the egg mixture to kind of temper the eggs so that they don't like immediately scramble whenever we add the hot noodles. And now I'm just going to add the noodles and the veggies. I could drain some of the water off in the sink, but I'm being lazy. I'm just gonna fold them in like this. There you go. I'm actually gonna let this sit here for a few minutes because it's way too hot to consume now. And also it'll help bring to temperature, kind of help cook that egg mixture that's in there. But that's it. Yummy. By the way, in case you're curious, I used my little digital thermometer to see what the temperature was in this bowl after I mixed everything together, and it was 159. And supposedly you're supposed to temper eggs to about 160. I mean, I think that that's, you know, kind of debatable according to who you are, but I thought some of you might want to know like what temperature this is that the eggs are sitting in, because some people are particular about that, other people are not, but 159 is close enough for me, so I'm gonna let this cool down and then I'm going to enjoy it. Yum. If you would like to purchase a printable PDF version of this meal plan with my grocery list, my meal ideas, meal planning templates, and the recipes that I featured in this video, you can follow the link in the description box below. It will take you to my Gumroad website where you can purchase this meal plan for just $5. Tonight I am making a super easy sheet pan meal. I am just going to dice up my smoked sausage sausage and chop up my peppers, probably just a couple of my red and yellow peppers. And I also haven't made my green beans yet. Yeah, I still have a package of frozen green beans in here, so I'm going to probably toss those in the microwave for a couple of minutes so they're not totally frozen. I'm gonna put all of that on a sheet pan. I will season the vegetables with a little bit of oil and salt and pepper, get those going in the oven at, we'll do them at 400. Will probably only take about 8 to 10 minutes. And while those are in the oven cooking, I'm gonna make cheese grits on the stove. Yummy. What I have going on the stove here is 1.5 cups of water and 1.5 cups of whole milk, and then some salt and pepper. I used about a teaspoon of salt and then some fresh cracked black pepper. And I've been right here with it. It's on medium-low heat. I'm always nervous about cooking with milk on the stove because it burns so easily. This is about to come to a simmer, and so I'm going to pour in 1 cup of my grits. And this is actually a little bit more liquid than the directions call for. The directions, it's 2-to-1 liquid to grits. I'm using 3-to-1 because I feel like they're too thick whenever I just use 2-to-1. I'm also gonna add 2 ounces of cream cheese, and I'm gonna let that all cook over low heat for about 5 minutes or so, or until they start to thicken up, until they're, you know, to the desired consistency, and then I'll stir in 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Yes, I do know that no self-respecting Southerner would use instant grits.
Were these magic grits?
But I'm not really from the South. We're more South adjacent, as I like to say, because we're just kind of next to the South here in Oklahoma. So some of that influence makes its way here. I'm just gonna use the quick grits instead of the, like, you know, long way grits. I don't even know if I can buy grits that aren't quick grits in my grocery store. I don't know that I've ever even seen them. The last dinner that I plan to make with this meal plan is potato soup. And you have seen me make this several times on my channel. In fact, I'll leave a link in the description box below to a short that shows how I make potato soup in the crock pot. The only thing I would change with that recipe for this particular meal plan is that I would not be using any sausage. So I would probably just use some extra salt and pepper and seasonings and just have plain potato soup without any meat in it. Or I could throw in some leftover roast beef, or if I have any meat from the chicken leg left over, you know, I could probably kind of change it according to what I might have left from previous meals. But basically it's just potatoes, maybe some onions and garlic, some seasonings, some broth, and a little bit of cream cheese. And then at the end, after everything's cooked, I add in a little milk, or half and half, some extra seasonings if it needs it. And then we can have that with shredded cheese, with toast, with a side salad. So easy and so delicious. If you like this kind of content, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel because I do a lot of videos like this one. In fact, I did another $100 budget weekly meal plan a few weeks ago. You'll find it right here if you haven't seen it already, or check out this video and I'll see you there.